What did the Native Americans think of the Pilgrims from England when they first arrived? And why did they let half of them die before making contact? Before the Pilgrims arrived, the Native Americans of the northeast coast were well acquainted with the ways of the English, both good and bad. In England, coastal explorers and traders were greeted by the Indians with warm friendship until one of the sea captains treacherously seized some of the natives to sell them in Mediterranean slave markets. The Nausets were ill-affected toward the English after Captain Thomas Hunt had abducted 20 or so of their men in 1614. Captain Hunt had decided to take as many native captives as his ship could hold and sell them as slaves in Spain. As Captain John Smith, of Pocahontas fame, later lamented, Hunt's actions grievously damaged Indian-English relations in New England for years to come. In 1620, the Pilgrims arrived at Plymouth, known to the natives as Patuxet, and began to build their settlement. All that winter, Massasoit, chief of the Pecanicettes, or Wampanoags, had watched and waited. From the Nausets, he had learned of the Pilgrims' journey along the bay side of Cape Cod and their eventual arrival at Patuxet. His own warriors had kept him updated as to the progress of their various building projects. And despite their secret burials, he undoubtedly knew that many of the English had died over the winter. For as long as anyone could remember, European fishermen and explorers had been visiting New England, but these people were different. First of all, there were women and children, probably the first European women and children the Indians had ever seen. And instead of attempting to trade with the Indians, they kept to themselves and seemed much more interested in building a settlement. These English people were here to stay. Massasoit was unsure of what to do next. A little over a year before, the sailors aboard an English vessel had killed a large number of his people without provocation. As a consequence, Massasoit felt compelled to attack the explorer Thomas Dermer when he arrived the following summer, and most of Dermer's men had been killed in skirmishes on Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard. One of the natives who now advised the chief was named Squanto, or Tisquantum. He was the last survivor of the Patuxet tribe, who now lived with the Wampanoags. Squanto had been kidnapped and lived in Europe for many years. He now warned Massasoit about the Pilgrims' muskets and cannons, and their potential to start another plague. But more importantly, if Massasoit became an ally to the Pilgrims, he would suddenly be in a position to break the Narragansetts' stranglehold on the Pecanicettes. Enemies that were now too strong for him, Squanto promised, would soon be constrained to bow to him. The discussion is dramatized in the History Channel documentary Desperate Crossing, The Untold Story of the Mayflower. Why would the English stay? They will continue to die. They need us to keep them alive. Why should we help them? They have guns and cannons. The people feel an alliance will strengthen our nation. Professor Bremer also explains, the Wampanoags had been weakened by disease, and as a result, they were looking for assistance against some of the larger neighboring tribes that they felt threatened by. And so, in essence, what both sides are going to be able to achieve is a mutual assistance pact. William Bradford, the future governor of Plymouth Plantation, later wrote, all this while the Indians came skulking about them, and would sometimes show themselves aloof off, but when any approached near them, they would run away, and once they stole away their tools where they had been at work and were gone to dinner. Massasoit determined he must make friendship with the English, so he first sent Samoset, a visiting sachem or leader, with only a rudimentary command of English, to the Pilgrim settlement. He introduced himself as Samoset. He was not, he explained in broken English, from this part of New England. He was a sachem or leader from Maine, a region frequented by English fishermen. He explained that Plymouth Harbor's name was Patuxet, and that just about every person who had once lived there had died of an extraordinary plague. The Mayflower Pilgrims had established themselves in an area almost entirely depopulated by an epidemic that had been introduced by white sea traders and had caused the deaths of a great number of Indians. The supreme leader of the region was named Massasoit, who lived in a place called Pecanicat, about 40 miles to the southwest. Being after some time of entertainment, and gifts dismissed, a while after he came again, and 5 more with him, and they brought again all the tools that were stolen away before, and made way for the coming of their great sachem, called Massasoit, who about 4 or 5 days after came with the chief of his friends, and other attendants with the aforesaid Squanto. With whom, after friendly entertainment, and some gifts given him, they made a peace with him, which hath now continued this 24 years. Massasoit quickly learned the value of peaceful trade with the newcomers, whose friendship and goods would give him prestige and power over the leaders of rival tribes. Peace was also desired by the Pilgrims, and during Massasoit's lifetime the whites and Indians lived in friendship and maintained a trade that was beneficial to both sides. Sadly, the peace could not last forever. All living things, including groups of people, compete for resources. It was no different for the descendants of the Mayflower Pilgrims and the natives who knew them. That might explain the arrow through the pilgrim hat and the old highway sign for the Massachusetts Turnpike. The sign was changed due to confusion among motorists who sometimes mistakenly turned in the direction the arrow pointed, right, when attempting to enter the turnpike, or that it was the result of a letter campaign describing the signs as offensive to Native Americans. Well, I guess the sign is okay now. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel for new videos every week or two, and see the description below for a list of books, online resources, and films featured in this video.